Who is the most entertaining champion in the UFC right now? That's what we're going to be answering today. We're going to be ranking them from least entertaining to most entertaining. And let's just kick this off. We're going to start with number 8th place. That's Belal Muhammad. I think most people can agree with this. In terms of being entertaining, I think Belal Muhammad is at the bottom of the list. I mean, that's pretty much all people talk about when they bring up Belal Muhammad, is he's boring or they don't like his style. And that's a main reason why he's not that entertaining, is he does not have a fan-friendly style. And it's not that he's a wrestler or a grappler. It's that he does not get finishes. And a lot of the times in his fight, it's mostly focused on getting control. He's one of these guys that win by control for the most part. There are exceptions, like his fight against Sean Brady. He finished Sean Brady. He really just pushed him to exhaustion and TKO'd him with punches. There are times and there are exceptions where these fighters will break out of the list, but overall, I think Belal Muhammad just has the least entertaining style out of the rest of these guys. And the next person up the list, we have Merab Dvalishvili. And Merab kind of fits into this as well. Merab is mostly a control fighter. He does not get many finishes, and fans love finishes. That's what we all consider exciting for the most part. We like finishes and we like high-level MMA. Merab has high-level MMA, but he does not have a lot of that finishing ability. It's mostly control. But what I will say is that based off his last fight, you wouldn't think he would be this low, because his fight with Umar, I think, was honestly one of the most entertaining title fights of this year so far. And I guess that's not saying much because this year has been kind of lackluster so far, especially with championship fights. But if we look further back in Merab's record, it's hard to say that he's any further up this list. He had a boring fight with Sean O'Malley, and people hated him before his title shot when he was just 50-45 in guys like Petr Yan and holding him up against the fence for basically the entire fight. I think he had literally over 100 takedown attempts, and like 60 of them were stuffed. That's just not an entertaining fight style. Merab's kind of switched it up a little bit, but right now I'm still going to put him at number 7. Number 6, Magomed Ankalaev. I have him at number 6. This may be a controversial take. A lot of people like to say that, Magomed Ankalaev is this super entertaining fighter or just plain entertaining fighter. I think he's a great striker. I think he has pretty good grappling, but his skills do not make him more entertaining than some of the guys further down this list. And some of the things he does while he fights is just stuff fans don't want to see. Like for example, in his last fight against Pereira, he had Pereira hurt in the round before, and then the next round, he just went straight for the clinch for the entire round, basically. That's not something you see from the most entertaining, the biggest blockbuster fighters. And you see that with Ankalaev. Not all the time, but I will give him credit because he does push forward. He is on the front foot most of the time, and he does look to engage with his opponents. In number 5, we have Alexandre Pantoja. The thing that's said about Pantoja a lot is every fight he's in is a war. He always gets into wars. I think a lot of people forget about the Brandon Royval Alexandre Pantoja fight. That fight was not a war in my opinion. A lot of the fight was just Pantoja laying on top of Royval, getting control time. And that's not to say that Pantoja is not entertaining, but he does have these low moments that some of the guys further on the list just don't really have. And it's easy to say with his last fight against Kaya Sakura that, he's entertaining, but that's a guy who is just way under his level that he should be finishing. And he did finish him early in the fight. But when you talk about the real competitive opponents, sometimes it is a little lackluster at moments. But for the most part, he is pretty entertaining compared to the rest of the champions. I think he's in the perfect middle ground. That's why I have him at number 5. But number 4, we have Jon Jones. And a lot of people might be, oh, why is Jon Jones this low? Let me tell you why. His last fight against Stipe Miocic, let's just disregard the whole narrative around that fight, which was Stipe Miocic wasn't even a worthy opponent to be fighting for the title because he hasn't fought in basically 4 years and is coming off of a loss basically 4 years ago. Let's ignore all of that. Jon Jones did not have a good performance against Stipe Miocic. And some of you guys might think that's insane, but I don't think that fight was that entertaining. And I think mostly because Stipe Miocic just did not look like somebody who should be fighting for the title. And Jon Jones didn't look great either. And the way Jon Jones fights is not a very flashy style, which I'm not saying you have to have. You don't have to be flashy, but the way he fights is very slow and methodical. He throws a jab, and then he throws a cross, and he pressures forward, and it's a very slow-paced fight. And then the times he does get finishes, like the Cyril Gane one, and I will give him credit for the Stipe finish. That was a cool spinning back kick. But this fights like Cyril Gane, it was kind of anticlimactic, right? Again, a pretty big mismatch in terms of being on the ground, and he just gets a pretty anticlimactic choke. And a lot of fans were just confused, first of all, right when the finish happened. That's how anticlimactic it was. What I will give him, though, is his fight style might not be the most entertaining out of any of these guys, but when Jon Jones has a fight booked, you're watching it. Everybody's tuning in for a Jon Jones fight. And it's because of how good he is. It's almost like Floyd Mayweather, where at a point people were just watching to see him lose. So I have Jon Jones in number 4. Number 3, the newly crowned champion, Alexander Volkanovski. I have him in 3rd. And you know what? After this fight that we just saw last weekend, Volk, I would say, is more entertaining than he's ever been. The Volk that we saw in there, he was really exchanging with a dangerous striker like Lopez. He was sitting down on his punches, he was rocking Lopez. And Volk's never been known for having hard punches, but he's really just gone in there, little to no grappling, just pure striking, and looking for a finish. Volk was looking to take Diego Lopez's head off. Both of them were swinging with crazy intent. It was such an entertaining fight. It was probably the best title fight of the year so far. And then as well, Volkanovski has just an insanely high level skill set that you're just entertained by the technique and the skills Volkanovski has. So I have him in 3rd place. Next up, we have Dricus Du Plessis. I have him in number 2. This can go back and forth between him and Islam. I have DDP at 2. The thing about DDP is he's just getting more and more entertaining, right? He's even when he faces boring fighters, he makes the fight entertaining. He fought Sean Strickland in his last fight, who is a notoriously boring fighter, and he made that fight entertaining. He broke Sean Strickland's nose, he pushed forward the entire fight, and he figured out from the last fight how to land on Strickland better and to get a better win than he did last time, to make it less controversial. That was an entertaining fight against a fighter that is really hard to put on an entertaining fight for the fans. And I give DDP a lot of credit for that. Every Dricus fight, you know there's most likely going to be a finish. And now that we have Khamzat in the title picture, fighting DDP probably sometime very soon, there's no doubt why that fight is so hyped up. You have Khamzat Chimaev, who obviously is a super entertaining fighter, but you also have DDP, who is probably the second, if not the most entertaining champion in the UFC. But at number 1, we have Islam Makhachev. And the reasoning for Islam being at number 1 is kind of similar to Alex Volkanovski. It's not only because Islam always looks for a finish. We saw against a guy who is not on the same skill level or shouldn't have been fighting for the title in Renato Moicano. Islam Makhachev makes that fight look like Moicano was number 10 ranked for a reason, right? He got a finish in the first round. And when the fight's close, when he has harder opponents like Volkanovski, you just see the highest display of mixed martial arts you've ever seen. And that's just extremely entertaining. Basically the same reason I have Volkanovski so high, I have Islam Makhachev so high. I think the only difference and the reason why Makhachev's higher is because he is much more of a finisher. And he can finish the highest level. I mean, he finished Volkanovski. He head kicked Volkanovski. He submitted Dustin Poirier. He submitted Charles Oliveira. This guy's not only fighting the highest level fighters in the world, but he's doing it in fashion. And that's the reason I have him at number 1. Let me know what you guys think about this ranking. Would you change any of the spots up? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one.